Afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the California Initiative to Advance Precision Medicine's webinar on the Doctoral Student Representative Precision Medicine Research, RFA. My name is David Reiner. I'm the Chief Science Officer for the California Initiative to Advance Precision Medicine, and I'm joined by my colleague Saga Barberis, our Program Officer, and Ramon Martinez, our Science Communications Officer. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. We're going to have about a 15 to 20-minute presentation for you all, and there'll be an opportunity after which there'll be an opportunity to ask questions. And you can do that by submitting a question in the Q&A or by raising your hand, and then we can unmute you and you can ask your question. Feel free to also enter questions in the Q&A throughout the webinar while presenting. If there are any urgent questions, we'll get to them immediately. If not, then we'll answer all the questions at the end during the Q&A portion. Just a reminder that we actually do have two RFAs on representative precision medicine research, one focused on partnerships, and we had a webinar for that last week, and this one is focused on doctoral students. And I think that's it for the housekeeping notes. So again, thank you for joining, and we can go to the next slide. So this is our agenda for today. We'll first go over a little bit of background on our program, the California Initiative to Advance Precision Medicine. We'll then provide some background information on this RFA, the Doctoral Student Representative Precision Medicine Research RFA, go over the timeline, eligibility, application process, review and selection, and then the Q&A. Next slide. Saga has dropped some helpful links in the chat for our website and the RFA itself, so feel free to refer to those if you don't have them already. The California Initiative to Advance Precision Medicine, or CIAPM, was established in 2015 and is currently housed within the California Health and Human Services Agency, so we're a program of the California state government. Our focus is on grant making for research projects that develop upstream of solutions to health challenges, the research to clinic to community pipeline. And we also like to think of that process as collaborative. So we're researchers working with clinics and with community to solve some, provide health solutions. Grant making is focused on cross-sector partnerships, community researcher collaborations to reduce health disparities. Next slide. Wanted to just make sure we're all on the same page on how we think about precision medicine. Looks like the recording is paused, Ramon. We good now? No, it's still paused. I think we're good now. You're muted, Ramon. You're still muted, Ramon.
So sorry. The recording should be functioning. My options right now say pause recording or stop recording.
We should be good now. Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Thanks for bearing with us. So as I was saying, we have the definition of precision medicine in the RFA, and just wanted to reiterate that here. We think of precision medicine as an approach that aims to aggregate, integrate, and analyze vast amounts of data from research, clinical, personal, environmental, and population health settings to better understand health and disease, and to develop and deliver more precise diagnostics, therapeutics, and prevention measures. Kind of put more colloquially, it's really a distinction between the one-size-fits-all approach to include data about all aspects of the person, including social determinants of health, to achieve healthcare for the individual patient or the right treatment for the right person at the right time. Next slide, please. So, like I said, we focus on cross-sector partnerships and community research collaborations. And over the 10 years we've been around as a program, we've funded 21 research projects. A bunch of those have been completed and span the disease areas that you see here on the left. Our current portfolio is focused on adverse childhood experiences and depression. And you're all here today because we have a focus on a new funding opportunity on representative research. And like I mentioned before, that's divided up into two RFAs, one on partnerships, and this one that we're talking about here focused on doctoral student research. Next slide, please. So I'm going to hand it over to Ramon to go over some background on this RFA and the timeline. Go ahead, Ramon.
All right, awesome. I did in fact find the mute button, so let's go into this. As David mentioned, our request for applications is entitled Doctoral Student Representative Precision Medicine Research. So let's start a little bit about the commitment for this research program from the state. So California is investing $2.3 million in research funds for doctoral students to conduct representative precision medicine as a research topic. And we'll talk a little bit about what that means in a second. We'll be funding approximately 15 doctoral students conducting research at nonprofit California academic research institutions who are in good academic standing and will be funded at up to $62,000 each year for a 2.5-year project term. Projects should include underrepresented populations who have been underrecognized or historically excluded as research participants, and they should aim at reducing health disparities so that research benefits all people within California and promotes health innovation for all California communities. So some terms and definitions. So underrepresented populations are those whose demographic characteristics are not represented or who do not benefit from the research ecosystem and have been underrecognized or historically excluded in the research pipeline, which can include, but are not limited to, people from racial and ethnic minoritized communities, older adults, pregnant or lactating people, LGBTQ plus populations, rural communities, youth, and or people with physical and or developmental disabilities. Representative research is research that better matches the demographics of the disease or health condition of study, often by including or focusing on underrepresented populations within those research studies. Health disparities subsequent to that are large preventable differences in health outcomes that adversely affect populations and are closely linked with intergenerational, social, economic, and or environmental disadvantages. So how does that all sort of meld together? So given those terms, we want research proposals in this portfolio to support representative research, incorporate a precision medicine approach to reduce health disparities, and potentially include social determinants of health data and or community engaged research approaches. Projects should develop insights from previously or newly generated data sets and should enhance the students' education and training in this area of both representative research and precision medicine. So a little bit about the timeline of the applications. The request for applications was released on October 15th, and the application deadline in full is on January 30th of 2026. Notification of awards will occur sometime in April of 2026, and awards should start in May of 2026. Let's hand it off to David to talk a little bit about eligibility.
Thank you, Ramon. Before I go to the next slide, I know we're getting some questions in the Q&A about posting the recording. We will do that, or we post it on our website, as soon as we can. If you don't find it on our website when you're looking, please email us and we can provide the link to you. You can go to the next slide, Ramon. So wanted to go over a few logistics on eligibility. The applicant must be a current PhD, DRPH, MD PhD, or other doctoral level student conducting research at a nonprofit California academic research institution and in good academic standing. I know we've gotten some questions from applicants about whether this RFA is restricted to US citizens. And the answer to that right now is we are looking into that and trying to provide an appropriate answer for you as soon as we can. And we thank you for your patience on that. That's really all I can say at this point. Um, and please reach out if you have any questions, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as we can. Applicants should have identified a specific research project and mentor who will supervise and support the research. Projects must take place in California, and data should focus on people that live in California, but are not limited to only California populations. In other words, if your data set includes people from California and people from other states or other countries, that's okay. Research projects must aim to make participation in biomedical research more inclusive and thus more applicable and beneficial to all Californians. Projects must demonstrate prioritization of recruiting, enrolling, and retaining participants who are from underrepresented populations, which includes concrete strategies to ensure equitable participation, address barriers to access, and foster trust. Next slide, please.
Sorry, excuse me, David. Before we move on from eligibility, we also have a couple of questions about the eligibility of the applicant in terms of timing. So we have a question, if somebody is currently applying to their doctoral program, will they need to apply next year after being accepted? And then we also have a question about applying as a fourth year student planning to graduate after fifth year.
Thanks for highlighting those questions. Let me get through this second slide in eligibility, and then I'll get back to those questions. So applicants who have been supported by CIPM funding for doctoral research or with faculty mentors who have received CIPM funding as a lead PI or co-PI are ineligible to apply. Applicants who are currently receiving full-time doctoral student research funding through an active NIH F30 or F31 or similar award are ineligible to apply. Applicants who have been supported by CIPM for undergraduate or post-baccalaureate research but are currently pursuing doctoral research are eligible to apply. There is no limit to the number of applications from any single institution. And lastly, at the time of award, individuals are required to pursue their research training on a full-time basis, normally defined as 40 hours per week, or as specified by the sponsoring institution in accordance with its own policies. So thanks for letting me get through that. Just to get back to the questions, the first question on currently applying to a PhD program. From what I would gather from knowing how the PhD application process works, our awards would happen in May of next year and then be for 2.5 years. So if you are currently applying to a PhD program, I would guess that you wouldn't matriculate until August, and therefore this RFA, the timing just doesn't work out. Based on the way our funding is set up, this is a one-time, one-round only opportunity. So I'm sorry that the timing just doesn't work out for people who are applying to PhD programs currently. The Can you remind me of the next question, Saga?
The next question was if somebody can apply as a fourth year student and they're planning to graduate after fifth year.
Yeah, thanks for that, Saga. So for that question, this is a doctoral student award, and that is what the funding is for. We do have some language in the RFA about the opportunity to go on to a postdoc in California and have this funding follow you, but that is not a guaranteed situation and up to kind of our discretion and our funding itself. So with that being said, for students in their fourth year, the funding could really cover for sure the remainder of their PhD program and perhaps a portion of their postdoc. But that portion of the postdoc is not a guarantee.
We also have a few questions also on eligibility. Uh, what if the student graduates at the 2 year mark of the grant versus the full 2.5 years in the RFA?
Yeah. So essentially, like if you graduate um, before the 2.5 years are up, whether that's at the year mark, the 2 year mark, um, what happens is, first of all, we congratulate you, and second of all, you know, the that would be it for the funding unless you go on to a postdoc and in California, and there's an opportunity for the funding to follow you. But that's kind of up to our discretion and a continuing conversation with each awardee who's in that situation.
Also, on the point of eligibility, what about funding from a T32 or a T15 regarding eligibility?
Yeah. So for the T32, um, you know, um, let me answer the question this way. If you're currently receiving full-time doctoral student research funding, whether that's through an F30, F31, T32, some other mechanism, you're ineligible to apply. If you have any specific questions on that, feel free to reach out to us. But this opportunity is really for students who are not covered, do not have active full-time research funding.
On that note, we also have a question. If one is a current first year PhD student rotating in labs and won't be considered in full time research until June, are they still eligible?
Uh, Applicants should have uh, how do we frame it? Applicants on page 1 of the RFA, we say applicants should have identified a specific research project and faculty mentor that will supervise and support the research. Um, so if that's the situation for first year student, then go for it. If you haven't identified a specific research project or mentor, probably the timing isn't quite right.
And a question from a current PhD student supported as a GSR through their mentors grant. Does this type of support, would that be considered full-time doctoral student research funding such that it would make them ineligible?
Yeah. No. Let me rephrase. Applicants who are currently receiving full-time doctoral student research funding, that funding would be covered by their own individual award, like an F30 or F31, or being uh, a student on a training grant. If you're just covered by your PI, then you're eligible for this award.
David, can we also, I think just for the sake of clarity too, the difference between somebody getting perhaps professional development or research funding through T32 that just covers supplies or sort of uh, partial activities, but it doesn't cover, let's say, their tuition and full costs as well. Would you consider that as getting funded by the T32 as a full-time student? I would wager perhaps not.
I think our language is, thanks for asking that question, Ramon. I think our language is currently receiving full-time doctoral student research funding. So the research funding is covering your full-time work. So in other words, your stipend. Um, so essentially, if your stipend is being covered by an F30, F31, T32, or similar mechanism, then you're ineligible. If you please feel free to reach out to us, and we'll have our email address on the last slide if you want to ask a question about your specific situation.
We also have a question if a student is eligible, can they apply for this opportunity if their mentor PI is also applying to the other RFA, which is the partnerships RFA?
Yeah. The answer to that question is yes. Um, uh, there's no restriction on if your PI is applying to our other RFA, you can still apply to this RFA.
More on the subject of eligibility, the question is, does the applicants themselves need to be from an underrepresented background?
No, the applicant themselves does not need to be from an underrepresented background. Um, and I think we have some language in the RFA. I'm just kind of turning the pages um, to highlight something. We do have one sentence in the training plan on page 10, and the training plan may include a description of how the applicant's background and lived experience informs their research interests and training plan. Um, and so I think that's the extent to which we really ask about the applicant's background.
We do have one question regarding the goals of the RFA in terms of funded projects. I think that can probably wait a few slides.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, let's try to wrap up the eligibility questions and then focus on the rest of the questions at the end. But I think you're going to say the same thing, Saga.
Final eligibility question is just returning to the citizenship question. The question is, where will that answer be provided, and when is an answer to that question anticipated?
So for anyone that has reached out and asked us that question, we will respond to you by email and get back to you that way. Secondly, we will also update our website to include probably a clarification in the RFA. So there'll be an updated RFA and a frequently asked questions that will include a question on this topic. So multiple ways. Bottom of the line is email us or check our website, and we'll get back to you by email, and it should be on our website. In terms of the timing, I don't have a time frame that I can give you with right now. We hope it's within the next couple weeks. That's not a guarantee. I think we can. Are we good to move on from the eligibility questions?
Yes, there are a couple of questions that are more towards the application process and the parameters of the funding opportunity.
Sounds good. I'll pass it to Ramon to go over the next few slides.
Sorry, as usual, my mute is hiding. All right, perfect. Thank you so much for the questions. I know right away that a lot of students are very curious investigators. So let's answer some questions that I think have already been brought up, which is the application process. So to start off, we'll be using a portal known as Submittable. You can find our Submittable link here on the slide, as well as posted in the chat from Saga. You will have to create an account on there to submit all of your documentation. As we mentioned earlier on, the deadline for the application will be due January 30th of 2026 by noon Pacific time. And what does some of the required documents look like? Right off the bat, they will look very similar to a lot of NIH documents, but be very cognizant about where there are distinct differences, since this is a California-based program. We will have a specific aims page, a one-page specific aims page, a project plan no longer than 4 pages, references and citations which do not have a page limit, a training plan with a page limit of 3, a mentor and institutional sponsor statement with up to a 4-page limit. And I believe in the RFA itself, it'll talk about specific documentation and expected signatures from the institution as to what is required on that document. Biographical sketches and resumes of both yourself and all sponsors of your research plan, including your mentor and any others that are part of the project. A budget no longer than 2 pages, which I believe is also a template has been linked on the RFA document itself on our website. Human subjects research requirements documentation, compliance with state law, especially if you're dealing with human subjects, and letters of recommendation. We are requiring 1 letter of recommendation with up to 1 additional letter that can be submitted, but it is not required. It is optional. So no more than 2 letters total with a page limit each of 1 page.
We do also specifically have a question if the required components of this application are the same or more or less the same as that of the F31 instrument.
Correct. And in which case you'll find that there are some commonalities in how some of the subject some of the content of an F31 look like. They're going to look very similar to some of the stuff that we expect here. But again, please in totality read the RFA so that you can find distinct content that we are expecting. And I would say, just based on my honest opinion, use whatever content, if you have drafted an F31 in the past, as a guideline, and as to how to then frame the content that you need for our application. Think of it as sort of a starting place, if you will. Perhaps, David, if you would agree with that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, nothing more to add.
We also have a question about the person who is serving as providing the mentor statement. Can they also be the person who is writing you the letter of recommendation? Does that have to be different?
I believe they need to be distinct individuals. Correct, David?
Yeah, that's correct. The so I'm just looking for uh the part of the RFA. But yeah, so just to read out the letter of recommendation part of the RFA, the letter should be from individuals not directly involved in the application, so not the mentor or co-mentor, but who can speak to the applicant's potential and are familiar with the applicant's background, qualifications, education and training, and interests. And that's on the bottom of page 12 of the RFA.
Thank you. All righty. Now, to go to sort of the meat of the proposal, which is your project plan, what sort of themes and content are we expecting of your project plan? First and foremost, describe to us how your project and research proposal is advancing the areas of precision medicine and representative research. Again, if you need specific examples of those definitions, they are both in the RFA and earlier on in the presentation. Spell out your project plan and sort of the aims and deliverables, and to what degree, what timeline you will complete those within that 2.5-year term or earlier, if that is indeed what you are planning on doing. The type of data that you plan on using, either data that's already been generated before or data that you plan on generating yourself, and how you plan on creating quality data, what your method of analysis may be. All of that should be in the project plan. And then as a result of your project, what sort of precision medicine asset are you providing? I think something that's important to remember is that this is a representative research request for applications. And so part of this is making sure that we create assets that generate new knowledge and are providing a product for the communities and research participants that you're representing in your work. We would like you to spell out the impact for patients and participants as part of your research plan, and any promotional materials that you plan on generating as part of sort of an educational component of what your research is going to find, and what do you plan on generating and disseminating to the community at large, and that creation plan proposal, as well as any anticipated challenges and proposed solutions. I think this is important for a budding researcher to think through all of the different obstacles that may pop up as part of your research plan and how you plan to supersede those. All right. There is a question, but perhaps do you want to answer that, David, before we get to the review and selection?
Let's just wrap up with the rest of the presentation and then get to the questions.
Of course.
Yeah. So just a little bit about the review and selection. The awardees will be determined by an expert selection committee from outside of California. The selection criteria are outlined in the RFA, pages 13 to 15. In essence, there are four major categories and an overall impact category as well that are scored 1 through 9, 1 being the best, 9 being the worst, by our selection committee. So it's a similar process to NIH. Awardees will be announced in April of 2026 with anticipated projects start dates in May 2026. Can you go to the next slide? We also have some additional selection considerations where the project is located in California to balance geographic and institutional diversity of awarded institutions. And apologies, it shouldn't say partner organizations. That's a leftover from the last presentation. So of the awarded primary institutions is what it should say there. Research that has experienced recent funding cuts, terminations, or uncertainty about future commitments, the extent to which the project differs from current and former CIPM funded projects, and you can find more about those on our website. And proposed research on topics related to nutrition, chronic disease, behavioral health, or women's health. Next slide, please. Next slide. So that's the end of our presentation. I wanted to thank you for joining and for your interest and questions. We'll answer questions for the rest of the hour until 4 o'clock here. And you can type those into the Q&A or raise your hand and we can unmute you. You can ask your question that way. But also please email us your questions at cipm@chhs.ca.gov. Really encourage you to email us with your questions. We're here to help you understand how to best be responsive to the RFA, and if you have any questions on eligibility or anything like that. Again, check out our website. It's the source for the RFA, any updates to the RFA, frequently asked questions, how to apply through the submittable platform, and everything is there. The link to this webinar will be there as well. So with that being said, we can get into the questions that we see in the Q&A. I'll start with the one that's been in there for a little bit on cellular molecular level studies. So the question is mainly looking for, are we mainly looking for cellular molecular level studies? This person who's asking the question is more on the neuroimaging side and just wanted to make sure the product is within our scope. So I'll kind of refer back to our definition of precision medicine. And Ramon, could you throw that slide up actually?
Sure thing. And to add to that, David, I also wanted to add, when we were talking a little bit about the additional selection considerations, there were some research topics that were proposed. Just to clarify, those are areas of special interest and not exclusive to all the different types of proposals that could be proposed.
For clarification.
Let's see here. Which slide are we looking for? Near the beginning?
Precision medicine definition slide.
Gotcha.
While he's pulling that up, I'll just read the definition. So Precision medicine is an approach that aims to aggregate, integrate, and analyze vast amounts of data from research, clinical, personal, environmental, and population health settings to better understand health and disease and to develop and deliver more precise diagnostics, therapeutics, and prevention measures. So I wanted to read that definition aloud. And as you can see, it doesn't talk about cellular molecular versus neuroimaging and make that distinction. So you can think of precision medicine as really just incorporating vast amounts of data across a spectrum of different ways to approach and look at health. And you don't need to incorporate every single one of these approaches. Um, just ask that you consider the whole person and generate or leverage data sets, based on that. So I hope that answers your question about neuroimaging. If you have a specific question, feel free to email us and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Next question I see is about the number of aims that are encouraged. We don't have a recommended number of aims that are encouraged, or we don't have a specific guidance about that. Really, it's just the recommendation would be to go with the number of aims that's consistent with your research question and approach, your resources, data sets that you have access to or are generating, and that are feasible within the time frame. The next question about using an existing data set. Can we elaborate on the promotional materials? Seems to be like something that would be used to recruit study participants. So the promotional materials you know, can be uh, can look different for each project and probably should look different for each project. You can think for data that's already been generated, you can think about promotion or educational materials for those participants that generated the data. What would be for that be what would be important for them to know about the study that they participated in, for example? Are there disease areas that you're studying that could be uh, uh, relevant for communities across California? And how can the promotional materials kind of cover that? So I would encourage you all to kind of think broadly about what that means and to be creative. Uh, so hope that answers your question, and please follow up if you have anything more specific.
David, the sort of flavoring of different types of materials, they can be both, in written or illustrative format, or perhaps some sort of video. I think there's a very broad swath of the materials that RFA can answer, and or if it's disseminating your data at some point as well. I think that's also something that we envisioned in the RFA.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Ramon. It was mentioned this opportunity is one time, so this RFA will not be offered next year or in subsequent years. That's correct. This is a one-time, one-round funding opportunity that we're offering this year, and that's it. We'd love to be in the position where we could offer this multiple rounds, multiple years. We're just not in that position right now. If you're co-mentored, would you list both PIs or just the primary PI? No, we do encourage you to list your two PIs that co-mentor you and include them in the training plan and the mentor statement and the project plan. So yeah. Do you have any favorite examples of previous projects? I'm not going to pull out any favorites, but recommend that you check out our website and look at our previous projects, and you can see, what they look like and, the topic areas they've covered, how they think about and address precision medicine, I will say that all the projects that we've previously funded have been at the PI level. So faculty led projects, several million dollars over several years. So they're going to be much more complex in terms of their research question, partnerships, and reach. But I hope that gives you a flavor of the type of research that we funded. Thanks for putting that link in the chat, Saga. Do you feel like mixed methods or qualitative work has a place here? We do a lot of precision medicine work through tailoring by trying to get rich information. Yes, absolutely. Mixed methods, qualitative work has a place here, and definitely encourage that. And I think we have some language in the RFA along those lines. Can the unit of analysis be neighborhood slash community or only individual level inquiries encouraged? I think for that uh, question, it might be helpful to have some more information. So please feel free to reach out and email us so we can try to understand your situation a little and idea a little better. Just as a first pass, we really leave it up to applicants to explain how their project is relevant and important for addressing precision medicine and representative research. So if you feel like you're confident you can make that argument in that case, go for it. If more questions come up during the application process, what would be the best email to reach out to? That's our CAPM email address. And Saga, if you could just drop that again. Thanks. How many applicants do we expect? I think I'll maybe answer that question this way. We intend to fund about 15 doctoral students with this funding opportunity, and build a kind of a cohort amongst those students. We will report on how many applications we get as the process goes through. But I'm hesitant to really speculate on the number of applicants we expect. Not seeing any other questions in the Q&A. Please feel free to add them. If you want to ask your question verbally, raise your hand and we'll unmute you.
David,
For now, yeah.
while the participants mull some of their questions over too, I did want to flag one additional piece of information. When we were mulling over this, the consideration for applicants based on citizenship, I think you made the statement whether or not others than U.S. citizens can apply. I think that statement applies to both U.S. citizens and permanent residents, just to be clear.
Thanks for that clarification. And we'll work on getting everyone more information on that as soon as we can. Any questions? Additional questions? Okay. See one in the chat. So could you actually read that question so I can, I need a sip of water. My throat is parched.
Question is, could this funding mechanism provide access to statewide data sets, such as medical claims data, vital records, or linked EHR data sets for research purposes like developing and evaluating individualized treatment strategies?
Appreciate you reading that out loud. Yeah, I mean, that sounds like it's an appropriate way to leverage precision medicine. I think it is important to demonstrate that your study population is underrepresented and kind of demonstrate how your project and approach leverages precision medicine and representative research. So please keep that in mind. And again, any specific questions, please reach out to us. Okay, back to the citizenship question. Does that mean international students with a US F1 visa are definitely not eligible to apply? So thanks for the question on this. Um, what I what I said before is we've gotten some questions whether this funding opportunity is eligible to only US citizens and permanent residents. Thanks for that addition, Ramon. And we are waiting. We are trying to get an answer to provide to you. We don't have an answer on that yet, so we ask for your patience. We'll hope to get an answer within the next couple of weeks. We'll email anyone that has asked us that question already, or reaches out in the next couple of weeks, and we'll post some clarification in the RFA and in FAQs on our website. The answer to that question is we'll get back to you, and we'll try to do so as quickly and appropriately as possible.
David, to the previous question that we had about can the funding mechanism provide access to statewide data sets, in our researcher or faculty-led RFA, I know in the documentation we also have a section about what sort of matching non-state funding or in-kind contributions that the faculty member can leverage. Is that something that is listed in this current RFA, and would it be an item to list as part of this RFA?
No, it's not listed in this doctoral student RFA. And but I think what is what is highlighted in both is the data section of the project plan, and demonstrating access to that data, and why how that data is important to address your research question and research goals. So I think that's an important aspect. And any data that you plan to use in your project, we want to make sure that you do demonstrate that you have access. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Okay. Appreciate all the questions that have been asked. It's exciting to see the engagement and enthusiasm for this RFA. And hopefully our answers have been helpful. Um, and uh, please email us and keep in contact as you prepare your application. We are here to uh, support our applicants impartially, fairly, and consistently. So that's what we're here for. Any other questions coming in?
None in the Q&A right now.
Thanks for confirming, Saga. All right. We'll give it another 30 seconds or so. Right. Oh, seeing no questions in the Q&A other than a thank you. I think we can end the webinar here. Really appreciate the questions, your engagement and attending today. And appreciate the thank yous coming in the Q&A. And please reach out to us with any questions, and good luck preparing your applications. Take care, everyone.